Well, hello, this is Louis Diaz, a co-news director with KHTS Radio, and I am here live in studio with Carrie Quashen from Rehab.
Hey,
How you doing, Carrie?
Yeah, all good, man. It's great to be here.
From Action Rehab, as
Absolutely.
I forgot that one word. Well, thank you for coming, Carrie. We're happy to have you back here on the show, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about what you have done. Later on in the show, we're going to be joined by Austin Dave, who's been working with you to make a documentary called Behind the Shadow.
Actually, multiple documentaries we've done now.
Yeah.
We've done, season 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, in the shadow of a pandemic, and it talks about drug use specifically here in the Santa Clarita Valley, and it shows the work that you're doing to bring people that are at rock bottom, if not just prior to hitting rock bottom, get the help that they need. So with that being said, welcome. Let's talk a little bit about you right now. You have...
I'm not going to tell you all my deep, dark secrets, okay? It's not going to happen. No, I'm just playing with you.
Nah, I get it. Yeah. So you've been in this business for a long time. You've been in the Santa Clarita for a long time. You've done shows here at KHTS for about 16 years. You've been nominated for Man of the Year. How did you get to be where you're at right now?
You know, wow, that's a that's a loaded question, man. You know, when I was young, we all have what you call contracts. Remember those when I grew up? And my contracts was, especially mine, is that I didn't want to be like my dad, and I didn't want to use drugs or drink or any of that. But I found myself putting myself in bad positions. And I found myself hanging out with people that I thought were exciting and that I could hang out with and not get caught up. That didn't go very well. So in my late teens, early 20s, I got caught up in the same thing that I'm treating other people with. Or for now, I got caught up with alcohol, and I got caught up in drugs, and it got bad fast. And I remember I was 25 years old, and my life I thought was pretty much done. I could not stay clean or sober, and I couldn't get high anymore. It just didn't work. And I remember I was sitting on a windowsill. This is a secret. Don't tell anyone, okay?
Okay.
I was sitting on a windowsill, and I had some arrest violations for driving under the influence and stuff like that. And I was sitting on a third floor of a window, and I remember thinking that I wanted to fall out the window and pull the trigger of a gun that I had at the same time. So I didn't know what else to do. Life was too hard for me, and drugs had taken over. Instead of doing that, I ended up in a rehab. That was 41 years ago on Christmas Eve.
Wow.
And stayed there for a few months and got out. Never relapsed. Did not know what I wanted to do when I grew up, even though I was 25. And I decided, somebody offered me a job working with adolescents. It was a crazy deal. It was 26 kids straight out of youth authorities. Literally, a junior prison for kids.
Yeah.
And I remember, forget that day, I walked in there and spent about 5 minutes looking around, and the program manager said, "Okay, you're on your own," and left. It was me and 26 kids.
Just thrown into the fire.
You know, and no one even showed up for graveyard. So I was up there for 24 hours before another staff showed up. And I ended up running that place and, doing all that kind of magic. And then I decided this is my passion. My passion is, to save other people from going through the same stuff that I did. So I worked with kids for over 20 years, and then started working with adults and doing rehabs and residentials and psychiatric hospitals and you name it. And found a way to radio and TV. I figured, you know what? I remember that was by accident. I was working at a hospital, and they said, 2020 is coming, and they want to interview you. I said, oh, no. They said, oh, yes. And I remember I brought some kids on with me, and I never seen these kids open up like they did on that show. And at the end of the show, I said, what happened? You've been in treatment, and I never heard you even say any of that. And they said, we don't know.
Yeah.
So what I found out is sometimes the camera has the ability to help people get out of themselves, if that makes sense. And so you're not only helping them, but you're helping other people. And so yeah, that's what I do now. I own and run drug rehabs. I've been doing it for over almost 40 years.
That's great.
And that's my passion. My passion, especially today, man. It's different than it's ever been in history, as you know.
Yeah.
The drugs are different. The fentanyl isn't here. I was reading a new thing that DEA had sent out that they're expecting mass overdoses now with fentanyl. So it's some scary stuff going out there right now.
Do you know what they define a mass
Yes.
amount as?
Yes, 3 or more.
3 or more.
At
any given one time.
At any given one time, 3 or more. So they're expecting that to come out in mass numbers right now. And that makes perfect sense to me because almost everybody coming into Action Family Counseling's treatment centers that has used opiates have at least overdosed minimum of once and more and had to be Narcan back to life. So I'm seeing, I've been screaming this is going to happen for the last few years, and now it's here.
So you've been doing this for 41 years or so. Prior to that, you were a drug user yourself.
Shh, don't tell anyone. That's our secret.
That's between me and
That's
you.
between us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Me, you, and our board op Patty over here.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. Don't tell anyone.
Don't you worry.
That's our deep, dark secret. Right.
Absolutely.
So back in those days, was overdosing less common than it is today? It seems like when you hear the news of a musician back in the day overdosing, it was just the one time they overdosed and they died. Was overdosing not as common back then, and if it was an overdose, it was going to be fatal, or were overdoses just as common today? I mean, maybe not as common because they didn't have fentanyl.
Correct.
But were people still overdosing and surviving?
People were overdosing, yes, and surviving, and people were dying. But I'll tell you what, I know of one person that I grew up with back then, anyways, that overdosed and lost his life. Only one person, because most of the people didn't use the needle or heroin or any of that. None of the people that I was around. It was party drugs and alcohol and that kind of stuff. So you didn't really see that. The heroin addicts were the junkies. You know what I mean?
Right.
But today it's changed dramatically because in the old days you had to stick a needle in your arm and people looked at you as a junkie. Today you don't have to do that. They're smoking it. So
right.
So it becomes more of a party thing and people aren't feeling like they're turning into junkies. So more and more people are using harder and harder drugs. And you know what's even worse if you think about it? Tell me one drug, somebody please, that you can use that's not physically addictive.
Can't.
You can't.
They're all addictive in one way or the other.
So the worst part about where we're at today is every drug that our children are using today is physically, I'm going to say it again, is physically and emotionally addictive. So once people start recreationally playing, I don't know what that means, recreational playing with drugs. What does that mean? They shoot dope and play soccer? I don't get that. but anyone that experiments with any kind of drug today that uses it and goes, oh my, I love this, they're screwed already. Because it's emotionally and physically addictive. So our kids are really in trouble. And now, because the DEA and the big farm lawsuits and all that stuff, there really isn't any more prescription pills anymore. Anything bought is what? Is bootleg.
Yeah, just brought in.
Almost 100% is bootleg. So that means whatever these children or people are using or buying on the net are cut with fentanyl. So that's why the DEA finally had to come out and say, we're in a pandemic now. It's more people are dying than ever before, and we're expecting mass overdose deaths in the near future.
So you've seen a huge change in the way rehab centers have to work to help people, and just the drug industry. Because 41 years ago, I wasn't alive back then, but
neither was I. Oh, oops.
I'm sure that. Well, let me ask you this. Was your job as someone helping people get off drugs easier to do back then than it is today?
Of course, it was way different.
Yeah.
The drugs were different. They weren't as powerful. I mean, it wasn't that, okay, it was, hey, get clean or whatever. Today, it's get clean or die.
Yeah.
It's a different ball game. Fentanyl, let me get it right. Let me get it straight. Fentanyl changed everything.
Yeah.
It's a whole new game changer. I got people that comes into my rehab strung out on crystal meth, but they're really strung out on guess what? Fentanyl. Because somebody's putting fentanyl in the crystal meth. So it's like it's everywhere right now. So game change.
Yeah. Well, you've been all over. You've been on TV. You've been on different talk show hosts with different doctors. And you have teamed up with Austin Dave, a Santa Clarita journalist who's pretty well known for his coverage of breaking news and stuff.
I don't want this to get to his head, but isn't he great? Isn't he like just one of the best at that?
He really is. He's one of the main reasons why I got into journalism. He was a great teacher, and he is a great teacher. He still teaches at COC. You guys have
an
put
amazing
together,
human being.
He really is. You guys have put together a documentary called "In the Shadows of a Pandemic," and people know there's a drug problem. They watch it on the news. Oh, another pursuit. This dude's probably under the influence. Or there's just random assaults, attacks happening on Santa Clarita streets. People know it's out there, but you guys are going behind the scenes and talking with people.
You're getting deep into it.
You're getting deep into it, and the documentary is showing the work you're doing to help get these people's lives back on track. So at the end of this break, when we come back, we're going to bring Austin Dave in, who's working on making this documentary with you, as well as some people that have just recently made the decision to enter rehab and start that new life. So stick with us. We'll be back right after this break. This is Louis Diaz with KHTS Radio.
Ever feel like you just have too much stuff and not enough room? Tired of having that RV just sit in your driveway? At Ed's Mini Storage, they're happy to help you reduce all that clutter while keeping it safe and protected in their spacious and easy-to-access storage facility. Whether it's only a few boxes or a boat or RV, Ed's Mini Storage has the space to accommodate everything you need to store. Call 251-0823.
Ed's Mini Storage, 251-0823.
Finding the right lawyer can be a challenge, but in Santa Clarita, there's no need to search when there's Hacker Law Group, Santa Clarita's premier litigation firm. Jeffrey Hacker has represented celebrities, financial institutions, accident victims, real estate developers, realtors, contractors, businesses, nonprofit organizations, and other individuals and companies with their legal challenges. Mr. Hacker is one of Santa Clarita's leaders, consistently listed as one of our most influential. When everything is on the line and you need legal counseling, visit hackerlawgroup.com.
Want to laugh at TMJ and that obscenely overpriced bike guard? Discover the 3 most common mistakes that must change to stop TMJ for good. Hi, I'm Dr. Thomas Palucki, and WebMD chooses me as best chiropractor and functional medicine in Santa Clarita. Something to think about. So, when you're ready to get better, go to drpalucki.com. That's drpolucki.com to schedule your free consultation now.
This is Bradley from Santa Clarita Grocery, the all-volunteer grocery program serving children, families, and individuals experiencing food insecurities. Since January 2020, Santa Clarita Grocery has distributed 83 tons of fresh groceries to 4,465 families in the SCV. Santa Clarita Grocery is a drive-up, drive-through service with physical distancing in place to continue serving our community. If you are in need or looking for a charity to do the most good for our community, please consider partnering with us by donating to Santa Clarita Grocery, one of the most efficient charities in the Santa Clarita Valley. A full 99 cents out of every dollar goes directly back to the community. Santa Clarita Grocery operates on a 1% overhead and is sustained through private donations. Santa Clarita Grocery is at 21176 Center Point Parkway in the Oasis Furniture parking lot. Please visit our website, santaclaritagrocery.org, or our Facebook at Santa Clarita Grocery to make a difference in our awesome town community. 661-425-7575. Be our guest and experience the difference.
Okay, Shelby, care to share with the class what you did this weekend?
My weekend started in the African desert, where I was surrounded by wild animals, like fennec foxes. After that, I climbed towering trees in the rainforest and played next to an animal called a prehensile-tailed porcupine.
Okay. Who's next? Ryan?
I went to the mall.
Visit the new Wildlife Explorers Base Camp at the San Diego Zoo and feel what it's like to be wild.
KHTS, your hometown station.
Well, welcome back. This is Louis Diaz with the KHTS Newsroom. We're here back with Carrie Quashin from Action Rehab. And we're also joined by three more people. We got Austin Dave, and we have Cheryl.
The one and only.
The one and only Austin Dave. And we got Cheryl and Cassidy, who are currently working with Carrie as we speak. So welcome back. Thanks for joining us, Austin.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming, Cheryl and Cassidy. So Austin, you and Carrie just released another episode of your documentary, In the Shadows of a Pandemic, and it talks about getting people help, showing how they respond to the help, and they seem very thankful. But the world of a drug user, from what I'm seeing / hearing in this documentary, is it's a roller coaster ride. And that's kind of how this documentary was. There was a lot of ups and downs. It started down, and then you thought it was going to get good, and it got great, and it kind of ended on a tearjerker. So I want to talk to you guys about when you make the decision to get off of a drug and or a combination of drugs. What needs to be done to stay off that adrenaline, to get that drug into you?
Me or you?
Go for it. I'll jump in.
But first of all, in order for somebody to really want to change and get clean and sober, something's got to happen to rock their world. So it's got to be an earth-shattering event, or some kind of peer pressure from a family member, court, that kind of, or a loved one. And the sad thing about rehab is most people that go to rehab don't want to stay clean and sober. They go to rehab to stop doing something that is getting them in trouble. If they're using crystal meth, they go to rehab because they're using crystal meth. They need a break. Or, you know what, it's just crystal meth. That doesn't mean I can't have wine. Or if it's heroin, that means I can't have a beer. So with that reservation in the back of their minds is what gets them in trouble most of the time. If you're an alcoholic or an addict and you have that addictive personality, it's all or none.
Right.
But then you get somebody like Jennifer that was in the show. Jennifer's been on the streets for a long time. She knows the streets. That's her home. I mean, she was actually telling us, she says when she wakes up in the morning, she walks out barefoot, takes a little stroll in her yard by the freeway because that's home.
Yeah.
So when things get uncomfortable and the craving starts coming, what does she want to do? She wants to run where she knows and what she knows best, and that's that.
Right.
Drugs. So it's a real constant battle that you got to do within yourself.
So I have a friend who
you have friends?
I do. It's very surprising.
I thought Austin was your only one.
He's one of my true friends.
That's right.
Probably only one of him and Jade and Jerry. They're probably my three main friends, true friends. The rest are just pity, right? Because it's the poor blind guy. We have to keep him friends, right?
No.
I never said that.
So I have a buddy that he used to be a neighbor of mine, and he moved away. But he used to be addicted to meth and heroin, and it was wild. It was wild. He'd go on these. He would just lose his mind and just start screaming and destroying the house, and he would go on these giant rampages. It was really sad. He got sober, and he's no longer using hard drugs such as meth and heroin. But he told me the thought of using drugs is on his mind every day. Mm-hmm. I know this is a weird analogy, but one of the things that I love to do is going on a ride along with the fire department. And when you're in that station just kind of hanging out and you hear that alarm go off of that low tone that starts getting louder with the combination of this loud, solid beep, which is the sign that they're getting a response to a structure fire, it's crazy to see these firefighters get this rush of adrenaline. They jump up and they sprint If you want to see firefighters run, watch them get a call for a fire. They sprint and they're just ready to go. And it's so much fun being part of that. You get that adrenaline. And I think of it all the time. Like, man, next time I go on a ride along, I want that feeling. I want to see that experience again. Is that thought similar to how someone that's been clean for a while thinks? Do they often reflect on the feelings of what it was like shooting up with heroin and getting that high? And is that, how do you prevent someone from relapsing? Because I know it happens, but how do you prevent someone from relapsing when they're having those, whether you want to call them fond memories or just memories?
You got to remember that when somebody uses drugs or drinks alcohol, when do they do that? That when they had a good day, what do? They come home and have a drink, or they use a drug to party, to celebrate. If they had a bad day, if their feelings were hurt or they got angry, what did they do? They drank or used drugs to deal with those feelings. So now when somebody gets sober, what we do is we take all those coping skills away from them, because that's what their coping skills were. So when somebody's feeling depressed, angry, sad, hurt, lonely, and they're just recently sober, and we can ask some of these guys that those feelings are on steroids. So
right.
What then happens is they get this, they don't know how to deal with the feelings, so the obsession to use has come back. They don't understand. It's not so much an obsession to use, it's they don't know how to deal with the feelings, so their mind's running to that zone.
Right.
So what we got to teach people is, like, listen, man, it's normal to get these obsessions. It's normal to want to get high again. You got to learn how to deal with feelings. Once you learn how to deal with feelings, the obsession becomes less and less and less.
Right.
It's getting them through that stage, and also to find out what the triggers were. I was speaking to my friend Cheryl. Yeah. And she went for a walk yesterday, and she went into a liquor store to get some food, and she had serious triggers.
Yeah, I did.
So tell them about that, and that I can go from there. Introduce yourself first.
I'm Cheryl, 44 days sober.
Yay!
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Addiction, alcohol, not the drugs, but alcohol is a drug, so.
One of the worst.
So yeah, yesterday, got up, went downstairs, and they asked, do you want to go to the store? And I said, sure, I'll walk down there with you guys. And I wasn't actually planning to buy anything for myself, but I just went with them and go through that aisle. And I stopped where someone else stopped, and they were getting vapes. And the first thing I see is all the alcohol. And there's nothing back there but the alcohol. So I walk away and I say, okay, I'm going to move down this way. And the alcohol that I used the most was tequila. And I walk over there and there's this big bottle of Patron. And it's like, I got to get out of this store. I can't stay in here any longer on it because it's just triggering me to want to drink. And I knew it's not something I want to do right now. I want to stay clear of it because I know my body can't take continuing to drink because I know I'm going to die if I do that.
And for you, what is it that pushes you to that point? What gratification are you getting from drinking?
It was no gratification. It was just drink to drink, you know? That's where my mind is at this point. Is like, okay, I just have to drink on it because I've been on it so long.
And there was there kind of an emotional side to it in terms of, were you numbing something? Was there something you were trying to, get away from?
I think it was childhood trauma that I had on it that I haven't resolved. Mm-hmm. And it's still there in the back of my head.
You know, when you get sober too, Austin, is what happens is all the feelings you've been running from for all your life comes back. Childhood trauma comes back. Old relationships that are 12 years old, loss of somebody comes back. But not only do they come back on steroids. So now they got all this pain, and the only way they've been dealing with the pain is by numbing it with alcohol or drugs.
Yep.
So does that make sense?
Yep.
So
exactly.
it's, and then the obsession to drink comes back because of the feelings. So what I'm hoping you know is that you deal with these feelings a little bit at a time. You deal
that's
with
what I'm learning now.
Yeah.
Do you find that in some cases it's almost like you're self-medicating? You're trying to, the alcohol in some cases was your medicine in terms of getting away from a lot of that trauma.
Yeah. Definitely.
So then, how then, Carrie, do you work alongside of people to get them moving on in a successful life without isolating 100% from the world? Because you're going to have people that's... I had a friend who was an alcoholic, and he told me that when he would drink, it wasn't just, hey, let's have a beer or a shot or whatever. It's, let's drink until we don't remember anything and we wake up, and hopefully we know where we're at when we wake up. He got to a point where he was able to be around people that drank, and he never fell into that temptation. Mm-hmm. How do you get someone to the point where they can realize that they had a problem, realize that they don't want to relapse, but they don't want to just be locked up in their house all day and not have a social life anymore?
It's triggers, you know. I mean, it's triggers. You got especially when you're first getting clean and sober, you don't want to put yourself in harm's way. So you don't want to. If there's going to be a function where there's going to be alcohol and or drugs, you know in your gut if you should be there or not. You know in your gut if it's going to be a trigger. You know where you should and shouldn't be. I stayed away from it for a year or two. Now, I mean, for the last 38 years, 39 years, I can go anywhere I want to go. Mm-hmm. I can walk into a bar. I can go to family functions. I can walk into a party house. I am not going to get the urge to use because I dealt with learning how to deal with my feelings first. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when we're teaching people in rehab, it's not so much come on in here and we're going to teach you how not to drink or use. You know how you don't drink or use? You just don't do it.
Right.
We now got to teach people how to deal with their feelings and face life on life terms.
Dealing with the cause, not so much the effect.
Exactly.
So to a question to our two guests, Cheryl and Cassidy, what was it that brought you to Carrie?
You mean this time?
I just want to tell you, Cassidy's been here once before, and everyone loves Cassidy and Cheryl. Obviously, we do. I mean, but Cassidy just drove 2,500 miles to come back.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's awesome.
I hail from a very small town in Argos, Indiana. There's 1,500 people in my whole town, so that tells you how small it is. Mm-hmm. This time, what brought me to Carrie was obviously unresolved trauma from childhood on. I recently, at the end of this month, my mother passed away last year. And for me to get through that and past that, I thought it'd be a great idea just to numb all the pain and push it all away in order to deal with it. And like I've done with all my emotions and all my problems, I've done the drugs to push them all away, telling myself I'll deal with them later. Well, later never comes. And then this time, everything caught up with me, and
later never comes, and the feelings never leave.
So I'm out here. This time, my drug of choice took everything from me, including my wife, everyone and everything that I loved. Including myself. And if I'm going to get any of it back, if I'm going to get myself back, I knew where I had to go. I was turned down from probably 15 other rehabs closer to home. And when I was getting nowhere at home, Carrie and we've been good friends for a few years now. And I knew if anybody was going to help me, it was going to be Carrie.
Well, that's great. Sorry to hear about the passing of your mom. Question for any of you two: when you're dealing with something like a death of a loved one or childhood trauma, when you're on the drug of choice that you're using, does it make you lose complete memory of the issue, or is the memory still there? You just don't necessarily, I don't want to say you don't care, but explain what that feeling is like and why it's so easy to resort back to that.
Well, for myself, methamphetamines has always been my drug of choice, and the effect that has on me, like you said, I don't forget about the issue, but it numbs my feelings, so I don't have to react to a feeling that I have about it. There's no tears. The anger is there, but it's less. You just don't feel anything. Normal people like to laugh and joke and cry, and they deal with all their feelings and their emotions because they're allowed to let them out.
Right.
When you're on methamphetamine, you don't have them emotions. You have nothing to deal with. You are numb.
The hardest part of that, though, is when you take the drugs away, what comes back?
Oh man, my emotions these last I'm 21 days clean today.
Awesome.
That's great.
The first week was all detox, and here I am. That part of the second week too, but here I am at the end of the third week, and my emotions are uncontrollable and run rapid. I could be sitting there laughing and joking and just hanging out with everybody else at the house, and then a split second later, I'm bawling my eyes out. And then you add some mental issues on top of it. It's just, you talk about a roller coaster ride, and it's no fun.
Do you think it's worth getting clean?
Absolutely.
Why is that?
I don't want to. Eventually, the drugs are going to run out, or they're going to kill me.
And they've already stopped working.
Yeah. Of course, it already come to a point where I was trying to numb something that wasn't getting. Those receptors are not there anymore. I was dealing with my emotions, crying, sobbing. Everything was there, and the drugs weren't even doing anything anymore.
But do you find life is better? There's two versions of yourself. There's a version of you that's high, numbing it, running away from it all, and there's a version of you that's taking it head on. What version of you do you identify with the most? Which one do you like the most?
Okay, now there's the one I identify the most with, because I've been using for 30-some years, is the drug addict. That's the one I identify with. The one I want to be and the one I'm now choosing to be is the sober one. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, I'm a friend. When I'm clean, I'm a role model. I'm a member of the fire department at home. I have all these things that are going for me that I want to strive to be the best at all of them, and I just can't do that when I'm high.
And do you find that it's easier to be that person? Because I think that's the biggest problem is that people will look at you and they go, well, drug addict. That's the identity, drug addict. But you find that, it's kind of like anything else. You are, like you said, a husband, a father, you're a firefighter, you do all these things, and that's not how you identify. But for you, how do you see yourself? When you look in the mirror in the morning, how do you see yourself?
Right now, it's hard to look in the mirror right now. But I'm very early into it. When I was doing well, it was very easy. I could look at other people. Yes, there's many people around that no matter what you're doing in life are going to label you based on what you look like or based on what your past is. And that's fine with me. I got a little bit of a different attitude towards things like that. So it doesn't matter to me what they look at me and what they label me as. I love proving people wrong. I really do. I think it's, I kind of get some enjoyment out of it when I'm told I can't do something or I'm not going to be able to do it because of this, and this. So as far as who I want to be, who I prefer to be, and who I strive to be, I want that clean and sober me.
You know that clean and sober you. You were clean and sober when you left action the first time.
Yes, I was.
For how long?
Just about 6 months or so.
And that version of you was terrific, wasn't it? That was a great guy. Everyone loved
sir.
you.
Yes, sir.
Except for you.
Except for myself.
It's time to start caring about yourself. And the way you forgive yourself is when you know you're done with the crap you've been doing that makes you feel bad, you can then start forgiving yourself. Where it's hard to forgive is when we keep hold to the reservations of I can do it again. That's what gets us in trouble. When you know you're done, you start feeling better. That's a secret we won't tell anyone.
If you two could maybe speak to someone who's in the same situation or a similar situation, or in fact, speak to yourself. Think back to where you were 44 days ago. Think back to where you were 21 days ago. If you could speak to yourself, that person who thought that maybe alcohol was the way out, or maybe drugs were the way out, what would you tell that less confident version of yourself, or the next version of yourself who might be vulnerable again?
So let's hold that thought. That's what we're going to talk about when we come back from this break.
Did he really do that to you?
He did.
I did.
I saw that.
Stay tuned, everyone. This is Louis Diaz with Austin Dave and Carrie Quashin and some of Carrie's people that he's helping get back onto the sober life and moving forward on a clean road. So we're going to hear advice for these guys coming forward for anyone who may be struggling. Please stay tuned. This is Louis Diaz.
This is Bradley from Santa Clarita Grocery, the all-volunteer grocery program serving children, families, and individuals experiencing food insecurities. Since January 2020, Santa Clarita Grocery has distributed 83 tons of fresh groceries to 4,465 families in the SCV. Santa Clarita Grocery is a drive-up, drive-through service with physical distancing in place to continue serving our community. If you are in need or looking for a charity to do the most good for our community, please consider partnering with us by donating to Santa Clarita Grocery, one of the most efficient charities in the Santa Clarita Valley. A full 99 cents out of every dollar goes directly back to the community. Santa Clarita Grocery operates on a 1% overhead and is sustained through private donations. Santa Clarita Grocery is at 21176 Center Point Parkway in the Oasis Furniture parking lot. Please visit our website, santaclaritagrocery.org, or our Facebook at Santa Clarita Grocery to make a difference in our awesome town community. 661-425-7575. Be our guest and experience the difference.
Okay, Shelby, care to share with the class what you did this weekend?
My weekend started in the African desert, where I was surrounded by wild animals, like fennec foxes. After that, I climbed towering trees in the rainforest and played next to an animal called a prehensile-tailed porcupine.
Okay. Who's next? Ryan?
I went to the mall. Visit the new Wildlife Explorers Base Camp at the San Diego Zoo and feel what it's like to be wild.
Playing now at the Canyon Theater Guild are two literary classics that you won't want to miss. Little Women the Musical will delight you with show-stopping music and ballads fitting this timeless story of family and perseverance. Also, The Lilies of the Field, dedicated to the late Sidney Poitier, who earned his first Oscar portraying the lead role in this delightful and heartwarming story. Both shows run through April 16th, so get your tickets now by calling the box office at 661-799-2702 or online at canyontheater.org.
Helping lead the way to a greener future, all of Burtech's Santa Clarita Valley waste collection trucks run on clean burning natural gas. Burtech takes pride in their community, and they've been serving the SCV for nearly 2 decades. Because at Burtech, we'll take care of it.
Hometown. Your hometown station.
Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Louis Diaz with Austin Dave and Carrie Quashin, and with some of Carrie's friends, Cheryl and Cassidy. Before we went to break, Austin was asking a question on how these people can advise people that are struggling with drug addiction to get the help that they need.
Yeah, I mean, you think back, like we were saying, 44 days ago, 21 days ago, if you could give a less confident version of yourself advice, something that would, ideally maybe encourage you, or, you think to yourself, like, I don't have this. Those days where you're just like, you're kind of, like you were saying, the trigger walking into the store. What advice would you give to yourself, seeing that you're in a safe space right now? Like, you're probably in the safest space you can be right here, right now. Speak to yourself from when you're not in that safe space. You're in that vulnerable state.
Well, I'm still working on that. Not sure, actually, what steps, all the steps that I need to take to stay out of the places that I don't need to go. I don't know. I just know that the last days that I did drink, I knew that I couldn't continue to do it at all. I had rented a hotel room, and I stayed in there for 7 or 8 days, not coming out, just isolating in that room. And like I tell people now, you don't have to get out of that room because you have Uber that will deliver the alcohol to you. So for, I believe it was 8 days that I just drank day in, day out, day in, day out, just to numb whatever feelings that I was having.
Well, where do you get your strength from?
For me, I just had to just dig deep and say, hey, I can't do it anymore. And I had to get up on Monday morning when my insurance was open and say, hey, I need help. I need places where I can go, or find places where I can go to seek out treatment on it, because I can't do it on my own. Like I was telling Carrie on the way here, I had been sober for 12 years, but it was a dry drunk because I wasn't doing a program at all. And I told him I guess it was a vacation, but in 2005, that vacation was over. My father got sick. He had Parkinson's, dementia. And I tell him, between me and my mother, we have issues with each other, and she has like this vicious kind of voice sometimes. And she just set me off, and it took one beer. Said, I'm going to take that one drink. And it took 17 years to get back to being sober, to getting help.
One is too many, and 1,000 is not enough.
Right.
Our disease of alcoholism and drug addiction never leaves. We can stay clean for a day or a year or 15 or 17 years, and it's still progressing. So when we pick up our first drink, fix or pill, right back to it.
Right.
You should be super proud of yourself.
I am.
We are super proud of you.
Thanks.
Seriously, you know how I met her? She showed up at the office, and no one actually knew why. And I walked out and I said, "What's going on?" And we talked. I said, "Are you ready to go to rehab?" She said, "My bags are in the car." Seriously, she came ready, packed up and ready.
I see in your eyes strength. I can see that strength right there. I think one of the biggest things that we don't do for ourselves is admit that we can't do it alone.
Right.
Is that, I'm stubborn. My girlfriend will admit it. I am the most stubborn person on the earth that will never admit that I can't do it by myself. And it's perhaps the most proudest moment for her when I do say, I can't do this, can you help me with this? Right. For you, that's what I meant by strength. That strength is from what you had said. You reached out and you dug out and you said, I want to do this. And you took it upon yourselves, both of you, to really, put it aside, put the pride aside and say, you know what, I have to do this. If I want to live a good life, I have to make one for myself. And I think that's awesome. That's something that nowadays no one can really do. The pride gets to you, whether it's that or just the fear, the fear of judgment or the fear of people giving up on you.
It took a long time for me to be able to say I'm ready. Like a lot of people, like you say, they're not ready. I'm not ready. It took me a long time to be ready.
But you did.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You have to kind of remind yourself that every day that you did. You took the step forward, and now it's just taking another step forward.
Right.
And that's the thing. And then some people say, like I just did, it's just another step forward. It's not. It's not. It's not like walking up the steps or up the stairs. It's very much a step that's 20 stories tall.
Right.
And every day it feels like it gets taller, even though you get further up there. But don't look back.
Trying not to.
Keep looking forward and see that you're getting closer to the bright light and a good foundation, a solid foundation for your life. And it seems awesome. I mean, the two of you seem like the two strongest people I'll ever know. The strength that you have to find and muster to overcome everything that you're going through, from your losses to your gains, the gains that you're going to come upon soon.
Yeah.
44 days.
44.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
21 days. That's incredible.
I could go a few days without the alcohol, but...
Minutes and seconds.
Yeah.
Seconds add up to minutes, minutes add up to hours, hours add up to days, days add up to weeks.
Yeah, I didn't have a choice with the meth. It was all day, every day, constant.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't go days without it.
But you've been sitting here for how long?
I've been what?
How long have you been sitting here? About what, 20, 30 minutes?
Yeah.
That's 20, 30 minutes more to your sobriety.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a time that about halfway through I'd have been like, I'll be back. Mm-hmm. And it had been a bathroom trip or something, anything, anywhere. I'd have went and got it taken care of, and then I'd have been back.
Yeah.
Hey, lean forward.
I had...
Lean forward. Pick your right hand up. Pick your right hand up. Put it behind your back. Put it behind your back. Pat yourself.
No, I ain't patting my own back. Not yet.
Do it right now. Give yourself some freaking credit.
Yeah.
You too. Hand up. Credit.
Your mom looking down on you, I know she's proud of you.
Yeah.
It's time for you to feel the same way and know that she's proud that you would take the choice to better your life. And it's hard to kind of come to grips with. It's hard to think about that. But she's proud of you.
You know what she just told me? She said, go give him a hug.
Yeah.
Someone give me a hug. Come here. We're all proud of you, dude.
You talk about what you would say to what I would say to myself. I would go back a year and a half, and there wouldn't be so much talking because I'm kind of hard-headed. It'd be a smack in the back of the head, and I would remind myself just to take a second and look around at what I did have and not pay so much attention on what I had lost.
And all the things that you can get. Your future is your future. You're not going to be stuck right where you're at right now. It's always going to go up, 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 up. You just have to allow it to. But know that you're worth something. Both of you. You're worth a whole lot. And the sooner you realize it, and I know we all struggle realizing it sometimes. I do too. But the sooner you realize it, you'll see that life becomes a lot better. The air becomes a lot crisper, the birds chirp a little bit louder, and the flowers seem a little bit more vibrant.
They even smell better.
Yeah, they do. They even smell better.
What's your name?
My name's Cassidy. And I'm an addict.
And? I'm freaking worth it.
I'm
Say
worth
it again. My name is what?
My name is Cassidy. I'm an addict, and I'm worth it.
What's your name?
My name is Cheryl. I'm an alcoholic, and I'm worth it.
Damn right. Damn right you guys are.
Well, this has been great. This is a lot of what In the Shadows of a Pandemic show. You guys go into homes, you go to these people's homes on the sides of the roads, or if it's a hotel, or in the back of an alley, wherever it may be, and you guys find these people and show them that there is hope out there. And Austin, you are doing a great job putting these together, showing the real battle, the real struggles that are plaguing our country and the city of Santa Clarita. So it's a very, very powerful documentary. You guys are doing a great job. Before we leave, what could we expect next on your show, and when is it going to be released?
There'll be a fourth and final episode. It'll be about mental health, and so kind of the common theme among everything. So it's basically looking at, how mental health for people who didn't even suffer from a disorder, became something. And so looking at how we kind of grappled with all of those things while the world's attention was turned to COVID. What happened behind the scenes, what was going on behind the curtain.
Right.
And also, we'll be talking a lot about it weekly here on the show. I think we're going to be live every Monday at noon. So that's going to be pretty exciting, too.
Yeah. Will there be a season 4, Austin?
Maybe. I think the next thing we're going to look at is homelessness. Hint, hint. That's kind of looking at, I want to look at different things that, we face as a society and things that people, pass judgment on and don't necessarily want to find a solution for.
Yeah.